We're here at the park, and what you're seeing on the ground here is the empty husks of horse chestnuts, also known as conkers. Now, conker season is just about over, and conkers for me as a child was a game we used to play. We would thread these on strings and you smash them into each other and see who wins. However, conkers are now supposedly the latest folk remedy for spiders in your house. Lots and lots of people are putting conkers on their windowsills in the hope that that will deter spiders from coming into their house. Is there any evidence that works? I'm inclined not to believe it, so let's test it out. So my son's been complaining about spiders coming into his room. He's on the ground floor, so let's have a look. This is what you're meant to do, is put conkers along the windowsill like this. We've got a range of conkers here, ranging from very fresh to quite dry, so whatever is the right way, we're doing something like it. So there we go. We'll put those on the windowsill. I'll get him to report back in a week or in a few days to see if he's had any more spiders coming in. Right, so we have some more conkers here to replenish the dried up ones that are on the windowsill downstairs. So let's go and top those up. Anyone alive in here? Oh, sorry, I've let the dog in. Okay, I brought you some more conkers for science. Okay, so we'll get a report back in a few days to see whether that really has deterred the spiders from coming in. So look at this. We're just at the park here. Look at this fantastic furry caterpillar that's come off the oak tree. I think I know which moth this comes from, but look at that, isn't it beautiful? These are the yellow leg mushrooms that I dried, or I started drying last week, and they are now very dry, tiny little shreds of dry mushroom. So I will be sharing them out equally between my 2 jars of mixed dried mushrooms and mixing them in, and then I suspect that might be the end of dried mushrooms for this year, but we'll see. We might pick some more later in the autumn. So we're just out for an autumn walk today. It's the middle of October, 15th of October, and despite that, the weather is still very mild. It's a rather unpromising grey sky, but the temperature is actually really mild. In fact, I'm still in shorts and short sleeves, although that may say more about me than it does about the weather. Anyway, let's have a look and see what we can see today. Not everything has gone completely into its autumn dormancy just yet. So this is a plant we've visited several times during the summer and spring. This is Lords and Ladies, or bittersweet. One of several plants actually that's called Lords and Ladies, but this one's called bittersweet. It's a solanum, and it has these little tomato-like berries, but they are poisonous. And it's just worth looking around, I think. Even this, which is a bramble leaf that's dying off, just look at the pattern and colour there. It's worth slowing down and just looking at the details of the changing colours of autumn. All of these little treats in store when you look very closely. Look at the mottled appearance there, and it's because this leaf is dying, but it is dying in rather a spectacular and colourful fashion. Now just here we've got some of the marble galls that we looked at earlier in the year. Now these are now spent. That little hole there indicates that the parasitic wasp or insect that was living inside that gall has now completed its life cycle and exited through that little hole, and so these are now completely empty, and we could collect some of these. In fact, we may well do collect some of these. They're used for dyeing actually. They're used as a mordant, I believe, for fixing dyes. And as if to demonstrate how mild this little spell we're having actually is, here we've got dandelions flowering in mid-October and fresh growth on those stinging nettles right there. Now, stinging nettles and dandelions are both forageable wild edibles, and both actually quite good. These dandelion flowers can be picked and fried in batter, and they're really delicious. And nettles, of course, a dozen different uses. They can be used in soup or to make nettle pudding, which is one of my favourites, which is a bit like a vegetarian version of a breakfast sausage. And here, this is ivy flowering, and actually green flowers and inflorescences, but actually there's little pretty stamens there to be seen. Look at that. So even in the middle of autumn, when it's quite cold, there are still things flowering. And I imagine when we get a warmer spell, this place will be buzzing with bees. Every species of tree has its different colour and pattern and texture that happens to it in autumn. So here we've got a horse chestnut, a young horse chestnut tree. And look at those beautiful clear yellow leaves with the light transmitting through them. It's just another thing to really get out and enjoy. And in fact, at the top of the tree there, look, we can see a bud forming, and that's next year's growth getting ready to go. So let's have a look at a few more trees and see the difference in colours and patterns and textures that we can see as these leaves die off and fall. This is something which if you don't get out here and look at it, it's only here for a few days or weeks, so you've got to get out and see this or else you're going to miss it. So here we've got hawthorn, and the colours of this hawthorn are coppers and bronze and yellow, and there are some hawthorn berries or haws in there. They're not actually berries, they are a pome fruit like apples, but people call them berries, and I'm not going to pick them up on that. But there we go, so haws there that will be eaten by birds throughout the winter. They'll probably persist on this tree until a bird comes and eats them. But look at the colours, look at the variety of colours that we've got in all of those leaves there. So here we've got Guelder Rose with its translucent red berries, which are technically edible, but I've never found them palatable. But again, look at the differences in colour and texture and pattern we're seeing on these leaves. So Guelder Rose is going a blushed reddish purple. And these translucent berries, look at the colour of them, they are just so vivid. Here we've got a field maple. Now maples, of course, are very famed for their autumn colours. This is the common or field maple, and it's got the characteristic helicopter seeds there, all in bunches waiting to fall. But look at the colour here we've got. We've got reds and oranges, flame coloured leaves coming out. Look at that. Again, you've got to get out, because it won't be very long before these leaves just fall and are gone and are nothing more than a memory in photographs. And seeing it here in person, I can tell you that it's actually, the camera's not doing it justice here. So whilst I hope you're enjoying this video, really, if you can, it's best to get out and enjoy this firsthand while it's happening. So here on a rose bush, we've got something, I believe these are called robin's nests, but they're nothing to do with robins, and they're not nests as far as I know. I forget whether this is parasitism by insects, fungus, or another plant. So I'll look that up when I get home, and I'll put the information on the screen right now. But this is some sort of parasitism going on here on a rose bush, and it produces these fuzzy, wiry bunches called robin's nests. I believe they're called robin's nests. I may also have to correct that on the screen. Right here we've got a hawthorn tree absolutely heavy with fruit, and that's an encouraging sign, because it means that through the winter the small birds, which have to eat constantly to stay alive through the winter, they will be provided for. That's good. So right here we've got a dogwood, cornus species of some sort, and it's got these characteristic red dogwood stems, but look at those leaves. Look at the colour and pattern that's emerging in those leaves, and this leaf will be like that for a day or two and then gone. Now there are other leaves here still to turn, so there is more of this spectacle to see. So here, on account of the very mild weather we're having, we've got clover flowering, quite a lot of it, and I've also seen some knapweed flowers, which we'll get a picture of in a moment. So there we go, this is very sort of unseasonal flowering, but it's because we're having a very mild spell. We had a little bit of a cold spell earlier, end of September, and the mild weather I think has tricked some of these plants into thinking it's spring. And so they are flowering even though it's autumn. So thanks for joining me today on this autumn walk. I hope you've enjoyed watching that as much as I did experiencing it firsthand. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.